Today we have a special guest. Today we're talking to Miss Lynn Tucker. This is part 2. So if you have not heard or seen part 1, check out the card above and you'll be able to see that video and then come back and finish watching this one. Trust me, you don't want to miss either video because she drops some serious nuggets. I am so thankful that she took the time to talk to us today. Okay, so this video is the second part of, I guess, a 2-part series. So we're going to talk about physical activity guidelines for Americans, and we're here again with Miss Lynn Tucker. If you have not watched the first video, you need to go do that now because this is going to tie in seamlessly with that, and there's really great information from the first video that you want to tackle before we do this. So with that being said, Lynn, thank you again for taking the time out to talk to us today. A little bit about Lynn, instructor, a clinical instructor for the PLU, was a Division I tennis player. I mean, over 20 years in the industry. I love picking her brain. She's so insightful. And just in the few minutes that we've talked about goal setting, she has changed and blown my mind. So again, if you haven't seen that video, go watch that video. So Lynn, physical activity guidelines for Americans. I know you say, looking at it, it looks overwhelming. How can we simplify it? What does this all mean? Please enlighten us.
Thank you, Kendra. Yeah, so as you can see on the chart, and we'll bring that in and out. I'm not able to share right now. But you can see this is a pretty, it can look like an overwhelming task to be able to do cardio exercise for 3 to 5 days a week, strength training and 3 days alternating per week, and then flexibility. Get in that flexibility. I don't know about you, but flexibility is the part that, yes, you have to chase me with a foam roller to get me to work my flexibility. It's just it's the missing link in my personal workout protocol. So not my favorite thing to do. So what we can do is we can break this down and use this guideline as our target. If we were going to go on a road trip from Seattle to New York City, we are not just going to blaze through, hopefully driving 24/7, because we're going to have to stop for gas, and we're going to have to break it down into steps, into segments, to safely get from point A to point B. That's how we need to look at these guidelines. Of course, we want every American to be as healthy as possible. And these guidelines have been established by people in the know, people far smarter than me, to get us into a healthy habit. So if we scroll back up to the cardio, we can see that we need to understand, first of all, the FITT formula. It's just a great way to break down what we need to factor in when we exercise. So frequency, how many days a week do I need to do some cardio or aerobic exercise to benefit my heart, my lungs, and my circulatory system? Remember, we're doing this for a reason. We want our heart to be as strong and as efficient as it possibly can be so that it can last a long time. So same thing with our lungs. We have to be able to challenge our system through exercise so that we can meet the challenges of daily living with less effort and greater efficiency. So 3 to 5 days a week. And that can be something like 20 to 30 minute bouts of exercise. Your intensity and time have an inverse relationship. So the busier you are, the shorter the time and the higher the intensity. If you don't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to cardiorespiratory or aerobic exercise, do more intense, shorter episodes, bouts of exercise. So instead of taking a slow jog for 60 minutes, increase the intensity, maybe add some hills to that and go for 30 minutes. Or maybe instead of doing a 60-minute workout class where you go at a moderate intensity, you do a 15 or 20-minute high intensity workout. And so this approach, with the duration of time is inversely related to the intensity. The shorter the time, the higher the intensity.
I love that.
So really that eliminates that excuse of I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is busy, and that is legit. I'm not saying that time is an excuse,
Mm-hmm.
but if we take a look at our schedule and very carefully place time, prioritize ourselves, prioritize self-care. This is all part of self-care. You cannot go out and help others truly without first investing in yourself. So giving yourself 30 minutes 3 times a week for your cardio, for your heart health, we can probably figure out how to do that. And so that intensity level, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that because I think we go back to the all or nothing. I think if people in their heads think, okay, well, if I don't go to Zumba class 5 days a week, or if I don't go to CrossFit 5 days a week, or if I don't do that kickboxing or Orange Theory or what have you 5 days a week, then it's not enough. But when we talk about those classes, the volume and the intensity in those classes, you can do them the 3 to 5, the 3 times a week, and really have the results that you need for just basic health. Am I correct in saying that?
Exactly. The priority for the style of teaching that I prefer is for health. Even if you work out for a different goal, like to do a running event or to go hike Mount Rainier or whatever, if you can always keep in mind that if you do something, it's better than nothing, especially for your heart health, your blood vessels, every part of your circulatory system. So we're looking at if we got a love on our heart, have some amor for El Corazon, then we can make sure that we're getting that in, and we're kind of letting go of that all or nothing philosophy that keeps a lot of people from actually doing it. They figure, I can't, so I won't.
Yeah.
This is all about I can. Oh, I see that I have time on Fridays. I can get a 30-minute workout every Friday. Boom. You start with that 1 day a week and you start getting into it, and it starts becoming fun. That's the other thing. I refuse to do a workout that is not fun. I refuse. If I go to a workout class and I try something out and I'm like, well, that was not fun, I am not going to do that particular workout again. Unless it's not fun because it's kicking my butt and it's a love-hate, like burpees. I'll do those again because I know that there's there's a purpose to it. There's a moral to that story. But there's so many things that you can do. Resistance training can be achieved through rock climbing. Go to a rock climbing gym. If you're a social person and you want to laugh and giggle while you're working out, come with me to Zumba. Stand behind me. You'll get the giggles in and the workout. So find what brings you joy, what you will look forward to doing, as opposed to, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think that is, it's so important. It's so important to find something that makes you want to move. And I think, again, because sometimes we have that idea of this is the ideal, this is what it's supposed to look like. Fitness can't be fun. It's supposed to hurt and make you want to cry on the inside, and you have to sweat and get uncomfortable. We are just supplementing. We're supplementing the movement that is supposed to happen in a pre-industrialized age. where we're tilling the field and we're walking and we're scrubbing and we're cleaning. We don't do that anymore. So we just have to supplement that. So that supplementation can be something you completely enjoy. You don't have to hate it.
Right, right. And it can be something, there's a man in the neighborhood who walks with extremely heavy dumbbells. And I'll see him and I'll say, "Oh, you're doing your farmer carry today." And he said, "Yep." And so we stopped and chatted one time and he said, "Yeah, I try to just do what, my grandfather did. My grandfather picked up, pails full of milk and carried them long distances and bales of hay and things like that. So I don't go to the gym. I just walk around the neighborhood and carry heavy things
Yeah.
and then go work in my backyard and do more functional movements. And you should see this guy. I mean, it's impressive, and doesn't step foot in gym and doesn't do what traditional or have become more traditional, like resistance training workouts.
Yeah.
He's out there, using what he has. It's
Yeah.
really cool. It's really cool to see it in a city environment that he's, and he's willing to do it, and he doesn't care what anybody thinks either.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just going to go out here and carry my heavy stuff and grunt and groan and sweat and I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. So I think this is a great segue to start talking about the resistance side of the house. So do you want to share with us your thoughts on, or explain to us what's going on here?
Yes. So resistance training, I just want to address this first. A lot of women have expressed over the years, it's becoming a little less and less, but there's some kind of hesitation or reservation about strength training in terms of not wanting to get bulky. And so just wanted you to know that it's very, very difficult for women to build the same bulk as men, simply because we don't have the testosterone. We don't have the same hormones that allow men to get bigger. We can do strength training, this very heavy, intense strength training, and will not get bulky. We will not start to look more masculine. Our muscles just don't respond the same way. So we'll have those nice, really well prepared muscles without that bulk and looking swole.
Yeah. So it's good that you pointed that out. So I'm really excited to get into outlining and kind of talking a little bit more about this resistance training and what it means to, whomever it is that is starting that process.
Yeah. And you don't have to be lifting super heavy weights. In fact, I really, really recommend body weight exercises, especially if you're just starting out. So body weight exercises are things you have been doing probably since elementary school. Push-ups, squats, lunges, maybe some, pull-ups if you have access to that. Burpees, the love-hate burpees. Any kind of sit-ups, crunches, things like that. Things that you can do, again, without any equipment. So again, erasing excuses or erasing reasons. You could do it in the safety of your own home, your own dorm room, wherever you are. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And also it's a little bit safer. You get to really learn a little bit more about your body as you're doing those body weight exercises, what your body likes and maybe doesn't like, so that you understand that and are more in tune before then you start adding weights like dumbbells or bars or other types of heavy lifting. And then there's so many different fun ways to add resistance, like medicine balls, kettlebells, suspension training. We call it, like, TRX is a brand name, but suspension training. So, and there's a ton of videos online, and you can also use resistance bands. I absolutely love resistance band. With one piece of equipment, you buy one resistance band, and you can use that to work every muscle in your body
Mm-hmm.
And you can change the intensity simply by how you use the band.
Yeah.
And they all come, if you buy bands off of Amazon and you buy them in a little package, sometimes you can get 3, like a 3 set, and it'll come with instructions on how to use it, photos demonstrating proper form, a link to a website showing proper form,
Mm-hmm.
and sample exercises and routines to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a student one time come running down the hall. She was so excited. Look, look, look. And she had just gotten her package delivered from Amazon. They had a special, and she got 3 bands from $9.99 on Amazon, free delivery.
Yeah, one of the great things about the resistance band too is, even though you may have a set of 3, you can put them together and really customize the resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this this chart again, so we have resistance training 3 days a week, alternating days. I think that's probably surprising to a group, some people out there, that it doesn't have to be every day.
Right.
And then you talked about here the strength versus the endurance, what types of programming or how you would do your workout to hit either one of these results. Do you want to talk a little bit about the difference between the strength and the endurance?
Sure. In fact, I just read an article last night that really reiterated the fact that if you're not comfortable or don't have access to heavy weights, the goal is to fatigue your muscles. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing bicep curls with soup cans, literally soup cans out of your pantry or off the shelf, you just do enough of them to where you're like, oh my goodness, I can barely do any more of these.
Mm.
And then you rest and maybe
Mm-hmm.
do another set. So if you're working your muscles to near fatigue, meaning that they're telling you, they're starting to scream at you,
Yeah.
ah, you're doing it right. So you can, if you have heavier weight, obviously that's going to be a faster process. You may not have to do as many
Okay.
repetitions, but if you have a lighter weight, if you're using milk jugs or soup cans or something you have at home, then you can cater it. You just know that regardless of what the weight is, I don't
Mm-hmm.
even have to know the weight. I just know I need to do enough to make my muscles start to scream at me a little bit. And then I rest, shake it out. And if possible, maybe not the first day, maybe not the first week, but eventually do 2 sets of that, or maybe even 3 sets. Eventually, that's how you're going to progress. And it's called progressive overload, to gradually challenge your body a little bit more at a time. And it's going to take some time, but you're going to start seeing, especially if you haven't exercised a lot or if you haven't strength trained a lot, you will start actually feeling the results within a couple of weeks, which is super exciting because we're in this era of, we want that immediate instant
Absolutely.
gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And strength training really gives you that. And plus you get that nice soreness the next day that reminds you, ooh, I did that. Mind you, you do not want to be so sore that you can't brush your teeth the next day.
Yeah.
Just saying. So there has to be that, you have to be in tune with your body.
Absolutely.
And then you can really get more specific. I'm in this for the general health and wellness about, resistance training builds bone density, which then curbs the number of fractures that people sustain over a lifetime. It reduces the risk for osteoporosis.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't often know is that osteoporosis for older individuals, that first fracture is often the beginning of the end of their quality of life. And so if you can postpone or completely eliminate the possibility of fractures, you're going to significantly increase your quality of life as you age. What they have to understand is that bone density peaks at about 30. And once it peaks physiologically, then the rest of your life is spent trying to maintain. You can't build anymore. You're just trying to maintain.
Oh.
So in your 20s, if you haven't built up that really solid bone density, if you're starting your 30s here as opposed to here, think about the future there, because it also takes effort to then maintain.
That
So I would rather be up here by the time I'm 30 and then try to maintain that rather than go, oopsie daisy. I wish I had known that.
that was so enlightening. I did not know that. I did not know that. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because you didn't hit that mark, like all bets are off, right? And that again is a point that we always want to make sure that people understand is any movement, anything that you can do from this point on, changing your life to move in a forward projection into that wellness state is always a good thing, no matter how small or how big the movement is. So that's awesome.
Right.
So I think we can transition a little bit into flexibility. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay. That's the area I struggle with for myself personally. I am fully aware of why we need to work flexibility. And in fact, working with clients in the physical therapy setting, obviously we worked a lot with flexibility because really to maximize the other categories, cardio and resistance training, if you're not working through a full range of motion, then you're doing your joints a little bit of a disservice. So I use the example in classes. When you're doing jumping jacks, you are not doing jumping jacks like this in one of my classes. You're doing full arm jumping jacks and moving that joint through its full range of motion. And students are surprised the next day. They're like, I could feel that in my shoulder from doing jumping jacks that I've never felt in my entire life, because jumping jacks are one of those things that are often not that it's an improper form, but they just haven't been maximized. If you're going to do it, might as well do it where it's also increasing or maintaining your flexibility. Check.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love the fact that you mentioned, hey, I've never done it full range of motion, and then the next day I actually feel something. That in and of itself tells you, first of all, revisit the basics. Before we start doing a clean and before we start doing these mega lifts that are so sexy and appealing right now, learn how your body is working. Do the flexibility, the mobility training so that you become better at those movement patterns. I think that is one of the things, and you know, this is my wheelhouse. This is the stuff that I love. If you don't get the mobility in and you expect to perform with these Olympic lifts, or you expect to perform in whatever physical training, strength training you decide to pursue, you're missing the mark because you're not getting, like you said, that full range of motion. And I think it's because we're trying to chase the wrong things. We're not trying to chase overall wellness. We're trying to chase numbers. Well, I want to PR. I want to reach, you know, kettlebell swings with 60 pounds. I want to be able to do it with 90 pounds, right? That's the thought. We want to chase numbers because it makes sense. It's easier for us to understand. So it's really important to work on this side of the house, because if you don't have this side of the house, you're not going to run efficiently and effectively. You're not going to swim efficiently and effectively if that's what you want to do for cardio. I know people love to ellipticals if they're the traditionalists or whatever exercise machine of choice. But if you are tight in your calves and you're constantly on your toes and you can't get full range of motion through the ankle, what happens when you go to the beach and you're walking on sand? You can roll your ankle, and then you're like, but I exercise all the time. So flexibility, mobility training is something that I am super passionate about. This is something there's no excuse not to do, because you can relax and it feels good. And it can be done literally anywhere. right? I've done
Right.
Zoom calls where I've been stretching out my glutes. You wouldn't know. You'd have no idea. I'm at the desk and I'm stretching out my neck and I'm going through different ranges of motion. Yeah, man, just start doing it in bed. Just start stretching in bed. Just start there. And then you can start to look at the other types of, incorporating foam rollers and incorporating, like you have here, the massage sticks and the tennis balls to get in the wellness to get in the flexibility, that it doesn't necessarily have to come in just with stretching. It's decompressing the soft tissue, and working both internally and externally. Understanding, I think, the difference between the types of stretching that needs to happen before and after a workout. If you want to talk about that.
There's a little bit of controversy about when static stretching is the most appropriate and how to get the most out of static stretching. So I have another story to tell. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
A long time ago, I taught elementary school physical education in a land far, far away in El Segundo, California. And I had never taught before. Basically, the physical education program was cut at this elementary school. Parents had a fit. This was about a week before school started. I was working at the Parks and Recreation at the time and at the physical therapy clinic. And they said, can you give up the Parks and Rec gig and come and teach our physical education program? Okay. So never have I been so intimidated with these, tiny humans. And so first graders, fine. Second graders, okay. I'm still barely taller than the third and fourth. Then I get to fifth grade and I'm like, oh boy, they scared me. So I was saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. Here's our routine. You're going to come out. You're going to get in your lines. I'm going to take a roll. Then we're going to go run and skip, come back, and we'll stretch. And then I'll demo and move on from there. And literally, student says, that's not how we've been doing it. And I said, okay, how have you been doing it? We stretch first and then we go run. I said, well, we're not going to do it that way. Well, why? So I'm thinking, do I use the big fancy terms? How am I going to relay this to a fifth grader? So I used a bubblegum analogy that if you wanted to share a piece of bubblegum with a friend, you can't take that Hubba Bubba bubblegum. It's not going to break, right? You have to warm it up in your hands first before you can stretch it to share it. So it's the same thing with the muscles. Before we can stretch our muscles, they must be warm enough for our body to allow them to stretch, because we have these cells that actually inhibit the stretch response, and our muscles do not like to be stretched when they're cold. And so once I made the mistake of bringing the class the next day, every kid got a piece of bubble gum. Yes, if you're a teacher, don't do that. First week faux pas, right? And I said, now do this, and now try to stretch it. And they all got to see it, and they experienced it, and so they got it. Then I got the slap on the wrist for providing bubble gum because it ended up all over school. But anyway, the point came across that, okay, I get it. So with static stretching, if you're going to do this type of stretch, your muscle needs to be warm enough to allow the muscle to actually relax into that stretch. So it just is a little bit of a warm up. You could even take a warm shower and that would achieve the same purpose, or go do a brisk walk and then stretch. It doesn't have to be super hardcore, but you should, a little bit of a glisten, just to know that your body is warm. And then that you're okay to transition into a static stretch. So that's just one of the things that I get a lot of questions about, static stretching.
So Lynn, I am happy to say that you, in fact, are smarter than a fifth grader. That's great.
Yes. I'm adding that to my resume right now.
Fair enough. All right. So, I mean, that was really great. I love that you explained all of this stuff. I learned so much, and that is saying a lot for someone who's been in the industry for a few years. So there's always places for us to learn, for us to grow.
Absolutely.
It's never a process where you have all the information and then that's it. Awesome sauce. So thank you for that.
Keep the knowledge going by clicking one of our favorite videos. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you understand the value I offer in my videos. So hit the like and the subscribe buttons. Also, if you would like copies of the charts Lynn created, leave us a comment or visit my website at movementinscience.com.